Chinese tech stocks have rallied this week after President Xi Jinping's meeting with private companies.
The emergence of the Chinese AI startup DeepSeek and the president's support for the private sector boosted stocks. Investment banks say the outlook, particularly for tech shares, is moving from investable to tradable.
Zhang Zhiwei is president and chief economist at Pinpoint Asset Management.
Yeah, I think it's a really big change of outlook for investors in China as well as foreigners, because in the past people thought, including myself, that the AI technology in China would be constrained for years to come, and it would be lagging the global leaders by not months, it's quarters, but years, right? So that's the general consensus. But now I think people understand that the technology developed onshore in China, and this is completely driven by domestic talents that's just as competitive as the best firms in the U.S. So I think that constraint that people thought, particularly from the hardware capacity, is not as binding as people thought before. I think that's a very big surprise.
And you mentioned the idea of a trade war, trade tariffs. Do you think that geopolitical tensions, regulatory shifts, perhaps other factors might change the way investors see Chinese tech stocks in the future?
Yeah, I think that's still a risk that investors are very much concerned and keep watching. But this is a evolving sort of a long-term risk that is everywhere. It's not just about China. It's happening globally in many countries. But I think what changed from an investor's perspective is that the strength of these domestic players, of some of these private entrepreneurs onshore in China, turns out to be a lot more competitive than we thought before. So the way they can manage to deal with the geopolitical risk or other constraints that imposed to them seems to be very impressive, and so that investors now, I think, have a lot more confidence for these firms to deliver for the years to come.
So has there been an evolution, if you like, among investors for Chinese tech stocks? What's the appetite for them now?
I think in the past few weeks, we've seen, both domestic investors as well as foreign investors putting money into the equity market in Hong Kong as well as in Shanghai, and particularly favoring those technology stocks. And there's very interesting development happening on the firm level that, the more people look into, the more value that people discover. Particularly, in the past few years, these technology stocks in China didn't perform that well, so valuation-wise is quite attractive. So I think global investors are now looking at China tech stocks in a very different way, and we do see capital flows into these stocks.